everyone, it's Gus from Askewed Reviews. And it's Friday, so that means it's a new episode of FearPix Friday. Now, if you've never heard of this before, let me tell you more about it. This is actually a collaboration between two groups. The first one that I happen to be a part of, which is called Cinema Society Saturday. This is where a group of us content creators do a bunch of horror movie reviews online. Now we partnered up with a streaming service called FearPix, as we actually are doing reviews for their movies, for their shorts, all sorts of stuff that you can find on their streaming service. Now the base model for FearPix is free, and on this service you can watch all sorts of independent horror, true crime, and thriller films, including short films as well. Now they do in fact have two options for a monthly or annual subscription service. Now, hear me out on why you should do this. First of all, when you do upgrade, no ads. Second of all, they are building an online community for people to talk about horror movies and even be able to talk to some of the people that make these movies. And of course, a potential opportunity of talking to us at Cinema Society Saturday. Now, if all of that hasn't convinced you, here's the biggest reason to go and join FearPix for one of these two services. 50% of all the proceeds go right back to the people that are making these independent films. That to me is amazing. Now, if you do decide to sign up for this, I hope you use my promo code, which is ASKWD. Now, this code is not going to give you any kind of a discount or anything like that, but this is how FearPix is able to tell how well our relationship is working. When you use the codes that are related to Cinema Society Saturday, they're able to tell and know that this is working really well for them. Now, enough about all of that. Let me get into what I decided to review for today. So for this episode of FearPix Friday, I actually chose to watch and review 3 of their short films. First one I chose is Star 67, directed by Palmira C. Munoz. This one clocks in at right around 19 minutes. The story revolves around these 3 girls who are friends, or for the most part, friends. They're hanging out at one of their houses, and because this takes place during, I believe it's the 90s, but it could also be the early 2000s. I can't remember exactly. But they are using Star 67. No, this movie is not about 6-7, which is crazy and I keep hearing about everywhere, especially from my own daughter. But anyway, this is Star 67, where if you don't remember this, when you dialed that, that's how you're able to hide what phone number you're calling from. So the girls are doing these prank calls and messing with people, and eventually they end up messing with the wrong person. I won't say much more than that. Check this one out so you can see how this story ends. I will say the thing I enjoyed most about this short is it really was a time capsule film. Looking at the posters on the wall, the clothes that were worn, just everything that kind of shows up did really feel like it was in that time period. The story itself was okay. I didn't think it was bad, but it also didn't really thrill me, at least in my own opinion. I also felt like the ending was a little bit off, and with me, when it comes to any kind of short film, one of the things that I gauge it on is whether or not I would want to see this as a full length feature. And unfortunately, at least in my own opinion, not really. So I'm going to give this short a 2 out of 5. The next one I watched was After Dark, directed by Jacob Owens. This one is about 4 minutes long, and with this story, we have a young woman who is at a cabin, and apparently the biggest rule at this cabin is you don't go out after dark. She does not listen, goes out, and ends up running into some terrifying creatures. Once again, I'm not going to say much more than that because this is one you should experience for yourselves. I really did end up liking this one a lot. I felt like it was intriguing and it did make me want to see a movie version of this, or like just a more elongated story. I think I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. Also due to the fact that I liked how the creatures looked in this. And the last one I watched was Aunty Mabel by director Alexander the Titan. This one is also just about 4 minutes long. We have 2 sisters that apparently also do live with their aunt, who is definitely dealing with some issues as she manages to kind of just stumble into people's rooms sometime and doesn't really remember things. They don't specifically go over what it is, but more than likely something like Alzheimer's or something related, I believe anyway. Now, things take a very dark turn, and that's where I'll leave this one. So with this one, I feel like there was potential, but I don't feel like a full story or enough of a story was told in this one, and it got a little bit confusing. I mean, I get the idea and the premise for the most part, but I just wasn't as big of a fan of it. So, at least for me on my scale, also just due to the fact that I don't really have an interest in seeing this become a full length feature, I'm going to give it a 1 out of 5. Now, with each of these short films, I'm just giving you my own opinion. I do still recommend getting on the FearPix app, watching these for yourselves, and deciding what you feel about it. If you've seen any of these, feel free to let me know what you thought about them in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this episode of FearPix Friday, and if you decide to upgrade to one of those two options with the service, once again, please use my promo code of ASKWD.